Fathers, what's the smartest way you've messed with your daughter's boyfriend? Everyone expected me to clean a shotgun at the kitchen table. That's the move, right? The cold stare, the hurt her and you'll regret it speech, the handshake that lasts a second too long. But I vet people for a living. I run background checks for a staffing firm, and the loud dads always lose. The smart ones just watch. So when my daughter Lena brought Bryce home, I didn't say a single word about protecting her. I smiled, shook his hand, and started paying attention. By dessert, I already knew something was wrong with him. Bryce was perfect. Too perfect. Firm handshake, complimented my wife's cooking by name, asked about my work like he'd rehearsed it in the car. He said he was building an investment fund and was between offices right now. When I asked which firm he'd come from, he named one I happened to know had folded 2 years earlier. He didn't blink. Most people misremember a date. Nobody misremembers working somewhere that stopped existing. So I ran my first little test. Over dinner, I mentioned casually that my brother worked in compliance at a bank downtown, a brother I don't actually have. I watched Bryce quietly file it away. 2 weeks later, Lena told me Bryce had asked whether her uncle in compliance could look over some paperwork for him. He'd repeated my fake detail back to me through my own daughter. That's the moment I knew he wasn't dating Lena. He was running a script, and she was the mark. I didn't warn her. She was glowing, and a father shouting, "He's a con man," without proof just teaches the daughter to defend him. So I played the role he wanted instead. I played the trusting, slightly clueless old man with a little money. I invited him fishing. I asked him to help me understand some investments. I let him think he'd already won me over. People always get sloppy once they think they've won. What he didn't know was that I recorded every single one of those investment chats. Every promise he made, guaranteed returns, a fund with no paperwork, a limited window that needed cash fast. I wrote down with the date attached. He told me he could turn $40,000 into 100 in 6 months. He handed me an account number to wire it to. He had no idea I'd already pulled his real history through work. 3 different last names, 2 states, and a civil judgment for fraud under a name that wasn't Bryce. Then I found the part that made my hands shake. Lena had already given him $11,000 from her savings to get in early, and buried in his old filings was a woman in the next county. I'll call her Megan. I found her online and messaged her. She called me back crying within the hour. Same fund, same speech, same limited window. She'd lost $19,000 and a ring he'd told her was an investment too. Here's where most fathers would kick down a door. I scheduled a nice dinner instead. I told Bryce I was finally ready to wire the $40,000 and wanted to make it official with the whole family at the table. He was thrilled. He showed up in a brand new blazer, ready to close the deal. Lena was beaming beside him. My wife still had no idea, and Megan was waiting in her car at the curb. After the plates were cleared, I stood up like I was about to give a warm little toast. I thanked Bryce for teaching me so much about investing. Then I set a folder on the table. Before we wire anything, I said, I just want everyone on the same page about this fund. I slid out the account history, the 3 names, the fraud judgment, the firm he claimed to have left that had been dead for years. Lena's smile started to slip. Bryce reached for the folder. I slid it just out of his reach. I recorded all our chats, I said, calm as anything. Every guarantee, every deadline. My lawyer tells me that's solicitation under a false identity. Then I walked to the front door and opened it. Megan stepped inside. Bryce went gray. She lost $19,000 to the exact same fund, I said. Lena lost 11. I started wondering how many more chairs we'd need at this table. Bryce shot up so fast, his chair cracked against the floor. He bolted for the door, and that's exactly when the 2 officers I'd called an hour earlier stepped up onto the porch. Turns out a clean, documented pattern across 2 victims is precisely what they'd been waiting on. They had a lot of questions about the other names too. Lena didn't cry until the cruiser pulled away. She turned to me and asked how long I'd known. Since the uncle in compliance, I said. She got her $11,000 back as restitution. So did Megan. And I never did give that boy the speech.